Today, we're going to talk about one of humanity's oldest fears and how our ancestors found a way not to conquer it, but to control it for their own survival. Rot. Just the word itself, it's primal. The smell, the sight. For any living thing, it's a universal warning sign. It says, danger, stay away. For most of human history, rot meant one of three things: scarcity, sickness, or death. It was the enemy. But what if you could turn that enemy into an ally? See, our ancestors made a remarkable discovery. They realized they didn't have to stop decay. They just had to learn how to guide it.
To really get how big of a breakthrough this was, you first have to understand the sheer scale of the problem they were facing every single day.
I mean, just try to imagine a world with no refrigerators, no preservatives, no grocery stores. Every successful hunt, every harvest, was a race against the clock. Meat would go bad in a matter of hours. Vegetables would wilt and decay. Even the water you drank could be teeming with deadly diseases. Survival itself was this constant, fragile negotiation with nature.
And that's the crucial insight right there. The solution wasn't about trying to freeze time, to stop nature in its tracks. That was impossible. The real innovation was figuring out how to work with the process of decay, to steer it in a safe and productive direction.
The answer came from an invisible world, one our ancestors couldn't see but somehow learned to harness with incredible skill. The solution was fermentation.
This really shows you the critical difference. Think of food as a battlefield where two different armies of microbes are fighting for control. On one side, you've got uncontrolled rot. That's when the harmful microbes win and they turn the food toxic. But on the other side, you have fermentation. That's where we rig the fight so that the helpful microbes win, transforming that same food into something safe, stable, and preserved.
So what is fermentation at its core? Well, it's simply the controlled action of microorganisms. We're talking about specific kinds of bacteria and yeast that we intentionally encourage to grow, and in doing so, they completely change the chemistry of the food they live in.
Let's break down how this microbial battle plan actually works. First, our chosen microbes, the good guys, start eating the natural sugars in the food. As they feast, they produce byproducts, things like acids and alcohol. And here's the genius part. Those byproducts make the environment hostile to the bad guys, the invading pathogens. They essentially build their own defensive wall, protecting the food from the inside out.
Okay, so that's the science. But how did this tiny, invisible process translate into a real-world tool for survival? How did it solve the biggest problem of all, just staying alive?
This was the ultimate test, right? A huge autumn harvest is totally useless if it all rots away by December. How do you possibly store enough calories and nutrition to survive when nothing is growing?
They took what was temporary, what was vulnerable to all those forces of decay, and using this microbial technology, they transformed it into a stable, dependable source of food that could last for months on end. And the results are some of the most fundamental foods in all of human history. Fermenting grain into bread unlocked calories and made them last longer. Brewing beer created a drink that was often much safer than contaminated water, and turning perishable milk into cheese, that created a dense, portable source of nutrition. These weren't just meals, they were the building blocks of a stable food supply. They allowed communities to actually plan for the future.
It's so important to remember this. Cheese wasn't invented because someone wanted a new appetizer for a party. Bread wasn't created out of a love for baking. These were pragmatic, ingenious solutions to life or death problems. The flavor was just a side effect. Survival was the entire point.
But then, over thousands of years, something amazing happened. This survival technology started to become something more. What began as pure necessity slowly evolved into preference, then tradition, and eventually, culture.
You can actually trace the whole progression right here. It starts with just survival. But then, after generations, people start to notice that these preserved foods have these really unique, complex flavors. What was once just not rotten slowly becomes delicious. And those preferences become so deeply ingrained that entire cuisines and cultural traditions get built right on top of them.
Think of kimchi in Korea. It started as a way to preserve vegetables through the harsh winter, and now it's a cornerstone of national identity. Or sauerkraut in Germany. It was a way to store cabbage for long sea voyages that became a beloved staple.
And miso in Japan. Fermented soybeans that became the foundation for a whole universe of flavor. You see? Different cultures, different foods, all born from the exact same ancient survival strategy.
Now, today, with our refrigerators and global supply chains,
Fermentation isn't really an absolute necessity for survival anymore. But the process has never left us. It's in our sourdough bread, our yogurt, our beer, even our coffee. Our biological and cultural connection to this ancient partnership is still right there, often just hidden in plain sight.
And maybe that's the ultimate lesson here. Fermentation shows us that the best solution isn't always to fight nature, to try and dominate it. Sometimes the most powerful innovations come from simply understanding a natural force and learning how to work with it. It was our first and maybe our most important partnership with the microbial world.